I can't hear anything, and it sounds like Hassan is having the same problem.
Yeah, I can hear Michael.
Oh, you can hear me,
I
okay.
can hear you. So we looks like we
So
can't
I think it's
hear this.
CVRPC in the conference
We
room. We're
we
not getting
muted.
any audio from you guys.
Looks good there.
Audio.
Okay, all right, now I can hear
That's
you.
better.
Okay.
Okay, but I said Ramadan Kareem and there was no response.
Oh.
I just assumed you were ignoring.
No, I was like, I noticed that your green box was going green, but I was like, I'm not hearing anything. So I was like, I thought it was just my audio. Then I think Michael figured out that it's probably both of us. And all right, so I think everyone's good. Yes.
Yeah,
Okay, so I'm gonna call meeting to order. Now it's 4:04 PM on March 3rd, 2025. Okay, and when first item is adjustments to the agenda. Christian has his hand up.
small adjustment, there will be no contracts. Today we can skip that item.
Okay, any public comment? I don't see anyone from the public. Yeah, financial report, awesome.
Right. So we are looking at the financials through the end of January 2025, which represents 7 months of the fiscal year. So we're looking at a surplus, and then surplus looks a little bit higher. It's almost $37,000 through the first 7 months. And the really big jump over last month was we just invoiced the ACCD Q3 invoice. It was over 6 figures, so that amount is recognized upfront as revenue, and as we spend it out in the quarter ahead. So just this number will most likely stay as we look at February and March financial statements. At the same time last year, we had a surplus of $188,000 through January 2024. Most of our unrestricted revenue is coming from our town dues, and along with our indirect that we recover on some of our agreements. Most of the financial or revenue is billed through January 31. The big jump here of $604,000 is mostly from ACCD's second quarter. This should say Q3 invoice of $160,000. Our cash balance is pretty good. We're about $110,000 in the operating account, and collectively from all the other accounts, we're about 1.287. Are a pretty healthy balance from that perspective. From MRC, the medical core, we have about 38,000 in a separate checking account that's not in this balance. We have a slightly higher payable balance as well, just because we have more receivables here as well. Some of the payables at the end of January weren't paid, so it's about $48,000 of the largest amount is for Stone environmental payment, about $17,000. We also owe about less than $25,000 to our staff for their vacation and comp time that has not been used. And collectively, between all the different agreements that we have about $761,000 of deferred revenue. This is revenue that's already in our cash balance here that we will be spending down in the months ahead. You take those things together, right? So our assets will less what we owe to others. Our equity is about $1,089,000. Again, that's a little bit higher because our ACCD invoice was sent this month. In February and March, you'll see that number drop down as that goes on. That's a very high level summary in terms of like where we should be at. We're about 7 months through the year. We should be at 58%. We're a little bit under that. We're about 40% spend. Our expenses are lower than that. We're at 34%, which explains that surplus difference. Our wages, though, which in the past were quite a bit behind, is slightly under budget. We're not too far behind. We're at 51%, which generally means like our budget that we prepared for 2025 was actually pretty close to where we are right now. Sometimes there's a lag in hiring and staffing up, so that's creating some of that lag. But in short, at least the plan we made looks like we are almost at staffing to that 25 plan. That's all that I have. Christian, anything to add or any questions from anybody?
No, I wouldn't say I have anything to add per se, but we are adjusting the budget or have that item on our agenda today, so that these numbers might change a little bit.
Yep.
Next month. And then with regard to our spending, particularly where it relates to staff time, we are still making a strong effort to get that as close to equal with what our budget, get that up to 1 for 1 really. because our funders, don't like to see that we're sitting on the money they're signing us, so. We're still looking at maximizing that amount.
Okay, Peter.
Yeah,
Welcome.
just a very quick thing on the surplus. As per usual, you mentioned that the reasoning for the surplus is the dues that we've already collected, which I agree, that does come in, especially that is a big factor in the first couple of months of the year. But at this point, there's only about 35,000 that would be collected against budget on that. So it's out of an surplus of well over 230,000. I was just curious if why we're still claiming that is due to the collections from the towns.
Yeah, so here's our town dues budget. We're at 87,000. That's what we have received against a budget of 87. That's our surplus is 234. 230. Yeah, 236. So of this 236 surplus, 80 of that is dues. The remainder of that is from indirect. So we can get indirect on our agreements. And this month, a big chunk of that, it's from 160,000 of it is from the ACCD Q3 invoice, which we booked to January. So if you take out this ACCD invoice of 160, this number will fall a little bit closer to where it was for the dues, which will be 87,000. But that's not all of it. It's 87,000 of it's from dues, which we really don't spend on anything else. The rest of it ends up being the admin. We're collecting a higher percentage than we end up spending, so that adds to our surplus. We're going to be renegotiating the indirect cost rate. So as later this year, or most likely early next year, our indirect rate will go up. Sorry, will go down, and our deficit will go up, and we will have a few months and not few years of losses that will offset some of the surpluses we have had in 25 and 24.
I understand that, but I guess what I'm getting at on the dues,
Yep.
where 87,000, whatever it is, 86 or 87,000. If we were to collect that on a monthly basis instead of on a lump, we now would have collected 58% of that, 58.33. So that would only leave about 35,000 still due if you want to work it that way.
Yep.
So that would be 35,000 off the surplus. So that brings us to the 200. We've got, what'd you say, 100 and some odd for ACCD.
Yeah, actually, the dues we don't recognize as the months go on. We recognize them all of it up front in July when we send the invoices out. So even though we're only like 58% of the year in, the dues revenue, we recognize all of it when the invoices are sent out. So in the revenue through January, we actually have the full 87,000 of town dues revenue, not just 58% of it's been recognized. Even though if we were invoicing it, and recognizing it monthly, then this would be less by, that $30,000 amount you mentioned.
Yeah, because I guess what I'm getting at is to say that of our $230,000 surplus, 88 of it or 87 of it is all due to the dues. That's getting a little gray.
Yeah, I could say basically like, okay, we've collected all 87,000 of it, even though some of it might not be, we still have months of the fiscal year ahead. So you could argue that some of it's technically not earned yet because the fiscal year isn't over yet. But at least in the accounting side, right? When we're invoicing all 87, when it goes out the door and everybody pays, we call all of it like revenue. And then therefore there's no expense against it really. So it ends up being added to our surplus. I'm probably not articulating that very clearly, but if we were to recognize the yes over 12 months, you wouldn't have 87,000 of it up front.
Okay, thank you. That I don't want to belabor the point forever. Thanks very much.
I think I understand both points, but yeah, one point Peter is saying that we can't recognize we can't attribute the whole 87 to the budget surplus, and us on saying we're not doing that.
Well,
Yeah,
I'm just saying,
we're just accepting it, fact that that's been, we've already invoiced it, we've already received it.
yeah,
It just helps contribute to that total surplus.
yeah, another point to add, so like it's of the budget surplus is 236, of which 87,000 of it's dues. But yes, technically all 87, even though we have collected it and we will call it all the revenue, I guess you could argue that, hey, look, it's not really CVRPC's money yet because the fiscal year is not over yet or we haven't serviced it. But at least on the accounting side, we have, invoice and then we book all of it as revenue in that first month. If we want to change that and equalize it over the 12 months, that's something I think we can discuss. But historically, CVRPC has always recognized that revenue in like the first month that is sent out.
Well, that's when it's due, the first month.
Correct. You could argue like 3 months in, is it technically all revenue to the organization? If you were to close up shop, would you refund it all? And if you would say, hey, yes, it's possibly not all revenue just yet because people are getting those membership services throughout the year. It's just not a large part of our budget. That's why it's okay to just add all of it up front. You can go either way, but at the end of the year, the 12 months, it will still have the same like mathematical result.
And Peter, you're comfortable with that other 150,000 of the surplus?
Yeah, not a problem at all there. Because as I said, we have, of course, the whole thing gets skewed by the QUISP dollars, not received yet because we haven't paid it out yet. And so that is, but I do understand fully that next year, the indirect cost will definitely be down. And that's gonna look bad for the first few months, particularly of FY26. That's all I have. Thank you.
Any other comments or questions for us? Hearing none, need a motion to accept the financial report.
So moved.
Seconded.
Michael makes the motion, Janet seconds. Motion to accept, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Hearing none, the motion passes 5-1. Thank you, Hassan.
Thank
You
you.
have six people here?
Oh, there's 6?
Yes.
Oh, Paul is here. I didn't, sorry, there's a big Paul Emery sign on the bottom
Yeah,
of the
sort of
page.
here, kind of at the desk anyway.
Okay, the motion passes 6-0. The next item on the agenda is contracts, agreements, and there are none this month, so we're gonna pass over that item, and we're gonna move on to Title 6
Plan
update, which there's, if you remember, we kind of approved this last month,
Yeah,
but there was some confusion because originally Paul had abstained and we needed an majority to accept, and we only had 4 people at the meeting, so that would have failed. But anyway, just to clear up the minutes.
yeah, this is as much to clear up the minutes as anything else. We also cleaned up the document, so there weren't so many edits in it. A lot of the track changes in the last round were caused by importing a PDF into Microsoft, so it became hard to read and really, as I understand it, difficult to understand where the content was changing. But again, just to reiterate, this update is focused mainly on updating our contacts, making sure Ruben McMartin, our transportation planner, is the primary contact, making sure our demographic data is up to date with the latest American Community Survey data, and adding a couple forms to make reporting or submitting a complaint easier for the general public. Title 6 is a necessary part of our work with the federal government, so this is a plan we've had currently. It is an important part of it. This is a plan we've had in effect for at least a decade, and these are just basically statistical updates, data updates to the existing plan.
So can we take a motion to approve the Title 6 update plan?
I'll make that motion. This is Peter.
Thank you, Peter.
I'll
We need a
second it.
second. Michael, seconds. Okay, we're ready for the question. All in favor of the motion to accept the title, to adopt the Title VI plan update, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Hearing none, the motion passes 6-0. Okay, next one is next item is the mid-year budget adjustment.
Yes, as I alluded to in our finance report, we are adjusting, oh, we skipped an item, actually.
We skipped
Yeah,
it.
We had
that's
the
Memorial Scholarship.
Yeah.
I apologize. The next, the item on the table is the Memorial Scholarship.
Yeah,
Okay,
all right.
Christian and I have talked in the past.
And Nancy is the one who's done the footwork, so I think,
Okay.
no, I don't wanna take.
Okay, no, but I mean, I think you and, I think all the three of us
Okay.
talked in the past about some kind of a memory, something in memory of Steve Locksmith. He served for Waterbury, he's over 30 years as a town planner, and he was probably over 25 years as the commissioner from Waterbury to the Central Vermont Regional Planning Commission, and has served as the chair for a number of years for the Transportation Advisory Committee. He received several awards after his retirement. You know, unfortunately, he passed away within a year of his retirement. We felt that we need to do something in his memory. And the suggestion was we started a memorial scholarship. And I think I'll let Nancy go on from there.
So using one that goes through Rutland Regional Planning Commission as kind of a launching point for research on this, I reached out to VSAC. And as outlined in the memo, they talk about how they can set the scholarship fund up and administer it. The caveat there is that it must be $1,000 annually, and it can't just be a one-time $1,000 scholarship. And so I think our reason for coming back to you guys at this point was to determine what the intent of the committee was. And because if it's a one-time memorial scholarship, then we would set it up as they'd advertise it, and then we would administer it entirely, as an organization. We would receive the applications, review them, and then disperse the award. So
I don't know if the committee's aware of it, because I think you and I, the three of us are the only ones that have discussed it, so.
I think it got brought up at an
Yeah.
executive committee meeting several months ago. And then it back it up, well, it was last fall, because I reached out to VSAC and then didn't hear back, and I dropped the ball on it. As far as following up, and then when I followed up with them,
Accepted.
well, when they did respond fairly quickly, and they apologized for not getting back to me in October, so. So now we have the information that we need to decide what our intent is going forward.
Do you have any, I'm looking to the committee to come up with suggestions, feedback.
Can
Well, I think
you
it's a good idea.
remind me of the intention of the scholarship? How,
It
I
would
mean,
be
as far as how it
somebody
would be used, or who would be eligible for it?
We have not come up with anything, Michael, I think.
Oh, okay, all right.
That's why I say, look into the group to come up with something. Yeah, my idea was we'd have an annual scholarship for somebody in our region. High school graduate in our region who is planning on going to a planning major, whether it be regional, city, national.
I can read to you what Rutland uses as their basis, so. Theirs was also set up to recognize a member of their board, Mark Blucher, probably killing that.
Who's
And the eligibility that they have is that they must, reside in Vermont, preference given to residents of Rutland County. Seek a degree in land use planning, legal studies, political studies, emergency services, agricultural, environmental studies, forestry, wildlife management, geography, history, automotive, motorcycle, architecture, economics, or civil engineering. Preference given to applicants seeking education in land use planning. And that's how it's listed in VSAC's book.
Mhm.
Peter?
Yeah, I'm just curious how many high school seniors have tracked themselves that well that when they graduate from high school, they're going into land use planning. Uh, I would tend to say the first 2 years is basically just a general, if you will, liberal arts education, and then specializing later on. But I don't know. I don't see a 17 or 18-year-old student graduating from a local high school saying, I'm going to be a land use planner and change Act 250. Maybe it's me, but I mean, I understand that we would certainly prefer it to be for someone going for planning. I mean, there's no question there. That's what our job is. But I wonder at nailing at that. I mean, even though Rutland's did have a very substantial covering of possible courses, but I don't know. If it was only for a high school senior graduating, if we opened it up further up the line for college students, then we might be able to nail it down to planning, but I'm not sure. Anybody else, please?
A good comment, Peter.
Mhm.
I probably should also add that, last year, this specific scholarship received 168 applicants for the one award,
Of how big is their award?
$1,000.
Is that, and that's not an endowed, that's a,
Theirs must have, I mean, they must have given a specific amount of money, but it's $1,000 annually. That's,
okay, until it runs out.
yeah.
Well, I don't know how they would do it, but they could do one scholarship, two, you know? They just
They only do one award a year.
okay, that's me.
Yeah, so I don't know how this started, like how much they had initially, or if they're continually funding it.
Yeah.
But I do know it's more than a one-time scholarship because it's run through VSAC.
Mhm.
And that's a requirement of VSAC, is it has to be more than just a one-time scholarship for them to administer it.
How about if we made it for juniors? Where you're focusing more on, or seniors? 'Cause many freshmen don't even complete their first year, whereas if you get to your senior year, you usually have a goal.
Yeah,
So you're talking about college now,
Yeah.
not high
Yeah.
school. Yeah, okay.
Correct.
Well, and I wouldn't say that this one certainly doesn't state it has to be a graduating high school student. It's
Well,
just a scholarship
yeah,
in general.
for someone domiciled in Vermont.
Right.
Mhm.
Okay.
Janet. You're frozen, Janet, so.
And she was frozen.
Any other, and we'll pass over
Oh.
Janet for a second. Janet, you're on mute, Janet.
I mean, the list that Nancy read from Rutland they're all sort of civil engagement sort of positions, but it is pretty broad. So yeah, I mean, and land use planning, as Peter was mentioning, it's sometimes you kind of fall into that from something else that you've started. Like I think that Christian could answer to that with just some of the job applicants for CVRPC recently, where they did have other experience, but and were hired based on that and are now learning some of that.
We don't have to limit it to land use planning. I mean, that's a very
Right.
specific part of the plan.
Exactly, yeah. Yeah,
Because
and
my
it-
undergraduate studies, which go back 50 years ago, when I was a senior, I actually chose the city planning option, and I was a civil engineering major. So
Mhm.
we did have a planning option 50 years ago.
So Janet looks like she's back here. Maybe I know she had a comment, but something happened.
My family's here and everyone's sucking up my bandwidth, so. Um, Two things. I just was thinking that maybe we should be a little bit specific about internships. I know on the planners listserv, they look for interns in other municipalities. I didn't know if that's something that we could consider rather than a scholarship to somebody headed off to college. And I agree with everyone about it shouldn't just be land use planning. I, like Jerry, fell into this because I went to forestry college and ended up in compliance, and here I am today, right?
Mhm.
So if you are, it could be transportation, it could be land use, it could be energy. I don't know what high schools are doing for kids when they go off to these college fairs these days. But I know that interns are a real integral part of a lot of municipalities' work. Sometimes we need that. We need that assistance from, part-time help from our youth. So I just want to put that out there.
Mhm.
Are you paying your interns?
No, I've never gotten one. But there's a gentleman up in Chittenden County that usually says, out to this listserv, hey, I'm teaching a course and I've got a bunch of students who might be interested in internships. And I know some other municipalities take him up on it. So if we're offering a scholarship of sorts, maybe it's a way to incentivize someone in high school to look more towards this field. Like I said, be it land use or transportation or energy planning. That's all.
Mhm.
Yeah, how, our current staff, do you know what did any of them, I know Ruben majored in planning, at least he got his master's in planning.
Is the question, so the question is how many of them are
What planners?
as undergraduates? I think Brian might have been a planner as an undergraduate. As well. I think only Brian and Ruben.
Everybody else just fell into it.
Works towards it. I mean, yeah, it's not uncommon to have landscape architects.
Steve was an landscape architect by education.
Yeah. Geography is a common one. There's not a lot of urban planning programs necessarily on the East Coast. So you have geography majors. They may know their way around GIS. Environmental studies obviously is very popular, and I think there are probably more environmental majors and studies majors out there than there are jobs to be to precisely fill that profile. So you end up with folks who are just interested in the complementary work we do. Yeah, it's a variety.
I had a question.
Pete, go ahead.
It would be, was it Brian you said did it as an undergrad?
I would have to check his resume, but I believe so. And then he went back and obviously got his doctorate and went in more into a geography direction. But I believe he actually majored in planning as an undergrad.
Yeah, it's just it would make a great. I'd be curious to find out how he landed there as an undergrad. Where did that decision fall? Who inspired that? How did he get to that? But I kind of agree that it's definitely an upper class person thing, and probably it's not that it's not a high school thing, but what's interesting is that in my experience, so few people working in high schools know anything at all about planning. It's not some, I don't know about science, it would be probably someone in the science field who would help to steer someone in that direction. But I can tell you that few and far between are the guidance counselors who are like, "Whoa, you know what? You should
Big
think about
future in planning.
They now have a lot of there's a lot of computer stuff, but I'm sure it's changed in the past 4 years, but I've gone through a lot of it. It's not like it pops up as a career much.
Right, well, maybe it's worthwhile striking that land use planning from something like that. And leaving others with preference to somebody that has interned.
What we can do is kind of look into this and try to bring together a draft list, because I'm thinking something like civil service. You know, what did Steve really do? He gave his time to the betterment of his community and one to,
Public
if you really,
administration people.
yeah, if you really want to get the spirit of what he did.
I guess what we
Yeah.
haven't heard is everybody in favor of it? Peter, go ahead.
Yeah, just a quick thing when, as Janet brought up on internship, what if
Yeah.
we sponsored the internship for CVRPC?
We can do that without a scholarship, right?
I mean, we do have a couple of helpers in the summer, but if we, I'm just spitballing, but if
Yeah.
we actually planned on hiring a land planning intern or a transportation planning intern, whatever type, be more specific with that. That would be from, my guess would be from junior, seniors in college, would be the ones that would be applying for that and would be helpful to our organization. I don't know about the administration of it though, Christian.
Sorry, I'm just thinking that through. I like the idea, do it during the school year. We'd have a stipend, something like that for an individual. Puts the onus on us to have clear work for a project that they could lean into and take on, which we don't always have the bandwidth to come up with that. There are opportunities to have interns, and we have taken advantage of that in the past. But if there's last year, no one had anything, they really have the time to give the direction to a student, so.
You didn't have the staff.
Right.
I mean,
Yeah,
This is-
We also had the floods to deal with.
and floods, right?
Yeah.
This is actually this is interesting because it's not a money thing. I mean, all of the schools now have what they call flexible pathways, and within flexible pathways it's flexible pathways to graduation. It recognizes that not everybody wants to do 4 years of high school or 4 years of college. And so all the schools have work placement professional people, like they have internship programs. So if you went to Montpelier High or U32 or Twinfield, there's someone who works there who places students in internships according to what their interests are, and they get high school credit. It's kind of that would be a really cool way to bring someone in. And Barry, I'm sorry I didn't mention Barry, but those are the ones that are close by. And I can help with those introductions.
I think Christian's point of we would have to have specific duties and whatever, and I don't know if staff time has enough bandwidth themselves to do that and follow up on it. I love the idea.
Yeah, I do too. I'm wondering how we would organize that to make sure every year we were ready for it and make it a valuable service.
Christian, how are you preparing for your Vista people?
We don't have any Vista people. We haven't had any for a couple years because Vista is often very restrictive into what we can steer their time toward. It has to really focus on that poverty alleviation. So when we have had them, it's been difficult to keep them busy. The last one we had, I should say, it was difficult to keep them busy full week every week.
If we were going to do something like this, we need to involve the schools.
Yeah, we could talk to, I think there's a opportunity here for sure. And it would take a little staff time and staff work that we need to probably budget out. But it would be.
Well, that would give us time. Because if we're gonna do a memorial scholarship, we'd have to do it through VSAC, we'd have to do it by next month.
Right.
Right, by
We would
May.
have to do it by next month.
For the
Yeah.
academic year.
By May for the
Oh.
following year. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we could always roll into the next year. We could start it in June, but it wouldn't be issued until a year later. So,
Mhm.
So
Is this something, like Christian, you could bring this up with the staff and see what they think of this idea and if
Yeah, Yeah,
rather than
so I
having it
heard-
foisted on them.
yeah, no, I can bring this up with staff and we can talk about that, because there's two questions I think we would also want to address that we haven't addressed directly today. And one would be something around how much would we fund the scholarship for and what the term of the scholarship would this be indefinite or would this be a one-time thing? So those are two questions we'd also
Well,
want
if you want
to
to put a sunset on it, but I wouldn't want, I'd like to do it, well, personally, I'd like to see it more, as a memorial to Steve. Now, how long it would last, I couldn't tell you.
Yeah.
That'd be up to the future administrations and.
So every year we approve it as part of the
Yeah,
budget,
this would be,
part of our
all
budget.
right,
yeah.
I think our original idea was to have a continuing scholarship. Now, whether it continued for 50 years, I couldn't tell you, but at least, for the near future. Okay, so you wanted, and somehow we need, if we do, as this last suggestion, we need to involve at least some of the guidance counselors in the area.
Yeah, we'll come back with some ideas of how that might work. We have a diverse experience among staff that I think would give certainly me more ideas to pull from than I had in my head alone.
Yeah, and
Okay.
the work program offices in the schools, I can find those and hook you up with them. I know a lot of the people working there.
Okay, well, thank you, Chris. I think we have a direction.
Yeah,
at the
great
moment.
ideas.
Okay, the next item is the mid-year budget adjustment.
Next item is the mid-year budget adjustment.
Yeah.
I've summarized the biggest changes in the memo. I might as well at least read through them, the revenue and major expenses and revenue changes. Projected revenue is being decreased by 390,000. This comes mainly out of a decreased expectation on our spending through the QUIS, specifically contract services. We do try to tie our admin time to the amount we bill in contractor services at roughly 15%. So yes, there's also a slight decrease to staff time going into the QUIS. But that is the principal cause. Secondary cause would be probably through our USDOT grant, which we are being cautious of right now. We need an amendment before we can really bill against it, because we are worried that potentially it could get canceled without that amendment. And they're not taking any new contracts right now at USDOT, and they're calling our amendment a new contract. So we're kind of chasing in a holding pattern, I'll say, until we get confirmation that that amendment has been processed. I think it's unfortunate we requested this amendment back in December. A little work got done on it in early January, and then it fell through the cracks at USDOT, and then it's caught up with all the other funding holds, funding freezes we've seen. Expenses are also expected to decrease by a higher margin. Again, this is contractor pass-through. I also removed the financial manager position from this fiscal year. Along those lines, we had 2 interviews for our joint position last Friday with LCPC. Tasha, the executive director of LCPC, came down here. We met with 2 candidates. Both were very talented and will bring a lot of depth to our team. We're going to meet with them again in a week up at Lamoille County's offices, so they get a chance to maybe bring a few more folks to the team so they get to know us a little better. But at this point, I'm optimistic we could come away with a half-time finance manager who would be in the office at least 1 day a week. They'd probably be employed by LCPC, and then we would just bill them for our half of the time. The reason we would do that is they're in the VMARS SERV program, which is the state retirement program. Anyway, long story short, it's off looking good at this point. But that would be towards the 2026 budget, not the 2025.
Because they wouldn't be hiring probably till April, the earliest.
Exactly. We're expecting there might start in May, conceivably. I know LCPC probably needs to get them on the ground in May because they'll be losing their contract at the end of, or the beginning of, or at the end of June. I forget when their contract ends. Did I miss any big ones? We had a substantial increase in brownfields. Spending, which is good. That's paired with revenue. Our interest income was substantially higher than budgeted, so that got moved up. Peter's got his hand up, sorry.
Yeah,
Go ahead, Pete.
I'm assuming,
Yeah, yellow hand is kind of off the left side of our screen.
sorry,
There
I
we go.
raised my right hand, but I don't know how to make Zoom do that for me. No, just a very quick thing. I'm assuming then we anticipate, and Hassan is on board with continuing through the end of June.
Yes, yes. If this doesn't work with our financial manager, we probably have to turn around and do an RFP for financial services. Our contract, I'd have to double check the term, but my feeling is it's probably beyond the term of our agreement with Hassan. We've spoken about this. He assumes it's month to month. I'd want to give him as much leeway as possible. I don't know how big a client we are for him, but and I'd also plan to have some overlap with anyone new coming in. So it would be there should be some extra cost to the transition, but I think the importance of maintaining continuity of books would more than outweigh that.
It seems like we'd have to go at least to the end of June, even if you're hired next week.
Oh yeah. I think so.
That's basically what I had in mind. So I don't know if you said you're taking out that position for the rest of the year. Should we maybe leave 2 months of it in?
Yeah, we could do that.
You leave it under, you want to put it under contracts.
Well, I have financial services.
Yeah.
I haven't cut the budget for Ajaz group. But I could put in 2 months, say, of costs for a financial manager.
I was going to say, if we don't spend it, we don't spend it. But
Yeah.
At least that way, we wouldn't be dragging down any possible budget surplus for this year, which we're going to need for next year.
Yeah, it shouldn't hurt our budget too much one way or the other.
You're looking at probably $10,000 at max, we're only part-time.
Yeah.
For 2 months.
Yeah, and the maximum, sorry, what was I gonna say? Oh yeah, and their time is almost 100% billed to admin, so it gets lumped into our indirect essentially. Anyway, long story short, I think that's a good idea, Peter. I can make those revisions. There's no real rush to adopt this new budget. Like we don't have a deadline we're trying to make. This is a communication tool, is my way of thinking of it, between me and the executive committee, and certainly anyone who wants to look at our books. So I can bring this back to you next month. Any other comments if there's other things we want to think about?
So we'll pass over this till next month.
That's fine with me if that's
Is
the
that
will of
the
the group.
consensus of the committee?
I don't really know if we need to pass over it. If we just make that $10,000 amendment or whatever into wherever you want to put it, Christian, then I think we could accept it. And unless anybody has any problems with some of the items.
All right, so the motion will be to adopt the recommended mid-year budget amendment with an additional $10,000 under wages and associated fringe benefits.
I'll make that motion, and I worded it exactly like you just said.
Perfect.
Well done, Peter. You need a second.
I'll second it.
Janet's got it.
Janet seconds. All those in favor of the motions, which is to adopt the proposed adjustments with an increase of up to $10,000 in wages and fringes for the financial. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
I,
Any opposed? Peter, Lee, did you want to have a comment or just a wave? Oh, no.
That was an aye.
Lee was waving like this, and I want to make sure it wasn't any comment. Okay, any opposed? Any abstentions? Hearing none, the motion passes 6-0. Next item on the agenda, I think, is the minutes, the meeting minutes from February 3rd and February 11th, the special meeting. Any comments, any observations? Want to make a motion to adopt?
I'll make the motion, we adopt the consent agenda.
Thank you, Peter. Lee, second, motion by Peter. We're gonna do both of them at the same time. Any comments? Any questions on the minutes as presented? Hearing none, take a vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions? Hearing none, the motion passes 6-0. Next item is the commission meeting agenda. And
Right.
Christian, you want to talk about?
I'll walk through the agenda, yep. Regional plan item for discussion is substantial regional impact. They'll be discussing, we had a discussion about that, the project review committee, who ultimately ends up dealing with this definition more closely than any other committee we have. They gave great feedback and kind of sent staff away with some questions they wanted answered. And this will be discussed to some degree tomorrow night at the regional plan committee.
Who's the lead on this?
On substantial regional impact?
This Eli?
This would go to Will, technically. Sam is closely engaged on this because it impacts how we talk about the section 248 projects and letters of preferred siting. So she's been working closely and they've been working together on this, and they led the conversation at the project review committee. Be walking through some of the decision points and where they're working on it and getting a broader feedback of the commission. So I think it will be a valuable feedback from the larger group. The next item I put on the draft agenda is this forum of elected officials. I think I'd modify that immediately to call it the Central Vermont Forum of Elected Officials. And the idea is we get together every month here at CVRPC with representatives of each of our communities. But wonder if we're really making our services clear and available to the elected officials, namely our governing bodies, our select boards, and to a lesser degree, perhaps city councils, and understanding that some of the opportunities that lie in the Regional Planning Commission for them to take advantage of, whether it's maybe hiring a shared planner or zoning enforcement officer across multiple municipalities and these kind of intermunicipal agreements, whether it's purchasing agreement or something to that extent. But we just think it would be valuable at this point to maybe have a meeting, a forum for that specific group of regional I don't know even what to call them, of leaders in our region, and then ask them the question if they want to keep doing it. It could be something we do biannual, maybe once in the winter, once in the summer. So it's not overly burdensome, but still keeps them connected with the work that's happening at our regional commission, keeps them linked into the work that's happening at our regional commission as well.
Excuse me, Christian. Janet, do you think that would go over big with Barry City councils?
At this point, probably not. I've had a planner position budgeted for 3 years, and we're in a huge deficit for FY26. So I just lost that position. Otherwise, had we been a better place, this would have been great.
Michael, since you've been on the select board many years,
Uh-huh. Um,
I'm just looking for you
I
guys.
think
to
it,
come to you guys.
you know, I'm just remembering when I first came onto the Central Vermont Regional Planning Commission, there was nobody in Woodbury really interested or really even knew anything about it. And you know, I've been working with some of the staff members on different projects for the town, so I think people are much more aware of the role that CVRPC plays in those things. And I think that our present select board, there might be out of 3 people, there are probably a couple of them that would be interested, especially if it was something that they could attend as a Zoom meeting or whatever. So, but yeah, I think I think there might be interest. I've been trying to get other planning commission members to be interested in the regional planning commission and haven't really had any luck. I can't tease anybody to be an alternate for me. So yeah, I think it would be worth trying.
And I can expand it beyond just elected officials. I mean, we could do broader planning commission at the same time and do it as much as just more generic, hey, we are your RPC, these are the things we do, and try to tailor it to a broader audience. If that's,
I mean, I think it was really great that this year there was a report that went into our town report from CVRPC. That's the first time that's ever happened, and it did, you know, everybody in town gets that report, and if depending on how much of
You
it
haven't
they
been reading
read,
your
it
town
does
report,
show that.
Michael. Oh, your accountants are not doing their job. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, because it's always been in my report.
yeah,
It
it's
could
not,
be
you know,
that it wasn't getting included by what
I
has been.
I don't ever remember it being in our town report. Maybe
Yeah,
I
mine not.
didn't read enough of the town report to even know that.
You got Peter.
Yeah, our situation, okay, here in our little town of Washington. Well, first off, as of tomorrow, we're going to have almost a brand new select board. We'll have four brand new members who have never been on
Wow.
any board anywhere in the world. But so it could be interesting. But very honestly, in my town, one, they don't know what the CVRPC does. 2, they have no idea how could be of help to them. And 3, even if we offer the help, there isn't any staff, period, that can work on that.
You're talking about town staff, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because we have no town staff. We have a town clerk, an
They have
assistant town
you.
clerk, and now 5 select board members, pardon me. 4 of them are going to be female. So we are coming into the 20th century anyways. But I think it's education more that we need to do with the towns, especially the small towns. The cities, okay, Janet or Montpelier or whatever, they pretty well know because we're in a lot of contact with them. But the poor little small towns, Lee's town, Michael's, mine, they just, or yours, Jerry, you're a long ways away from the office. They really don't know what we do. And if nothing else, some even consider us an impediment because, we have to clear things through the damn RPC before we can do what we want to do type of thing. So, I think we need to do more of an education thing rather than, because I know very well that if possibly one select board member from my town might attend, but I kind of doubt it.
Lee.
Yeah. in Orange, we had a combined meeting with the select board and the planning commission that Christian and some staff attended. And I thought it was very productive. And it really it makes my life easier because the select board now really understands what we're trying to do and what the regional plan commission can do to help the town. And I thought it was very good that we did that. And if you're considering some type of forum, I think the meeting like that with the select board and the planning commission combined with the town and representatives from the regional planning commission would be a good way of doing it. It really helped out in our town.
Yeah.
Just, I wonder if it would be too cumbersome if every town sent a representative to this forum, which is probably a good idea, but are they gonna get what they want other than?
Yeah, I guess what I was thinking is so I'll start with Lee's comment, because I think that was a really valuable conversation where we came in. I kind of went in with Nikki. I was an appendage. I was kind of brought in at not necessarily the star of the show, but we had a solid piece of work we wanted to discuss and work through, and we could really get back and forth and how to achieve this shared precise goal. When I first came on as ED, I made it to not all, because then the floods hit, but probably 65 to 75% of our municipalities, just to introduce myself. And often it was, oh, okay, there's the RPC. Okay, you can go now. I think you said your bit. There was nothing to engage on. So I agree, I'm looking for more opportunities to connect the way we did with Orange. I think is important. I would like to be in touch at least with select boards once a year, and just haven't found the right format for that. One of my thoughts was around a forum is it's not just a chance to connect with the RPC, but it's an opportunity for the leaders of, say, Washington to be, sitting next to the leaders of Williamstown or Orange and some of their neighbors with whom they share boundaries. So it wouldn't just be about the RPC and the education, but that shared resource that the municipalities might be able to offer each other.
Can I just interrupt for a second? Paula had a request that I think kind of got missed. She'd like to be able to connect by phone, I believe. Yeah.
Oh,
Sorry.
That's fine. Thank you. I have to go outside. Move it.
Okay.
All that's to say is I would hope that we start building relationships outside of just the RPC being the vehicle, that there might be an opportunity for those select board members in one town to realize they're not alone and that their neighbors are dealing with the same headaches they are.
I think this would be a great idea and a great opportunity. I think in Roxbury, I know the planning commission within the last year or so has been in touch with it. So I've been involved with regional planning commission going back into the 70s on and off, and I'm going to say probably over 15-year span. And I've only ever had 2 comments from citizens. One was from Northfield on an issue that was before the regional planning commission, and one was from Roxbury. So there's not a lot of feedback from our communities. Michael.
So just following up with what Christian was saying about having different town officials together in a forum or space. Do you think that would be better facilitated in a physical setting as opposed to looking at a screen?
Absolutely. I mean,
that would be my thinking too.
Yeah, I've been kind of playing around with ideas, and I think it was something like come in, introduce the RPC for the first 45 minutes, then have your pizza break. And then if we want to do a specific training after that, we could, but something like a 2-hour event, but kind of introduce ourselves and then kind of urge them to sit down next to other leaders and just talk about what they're dealing with. Would be, I think, one of the high value items that we could provide.
Okay, so on next Tuesday, we're going to hear 23 other different opinions on this?
Well, I can add, I can take this advice or this feedback, that I value and work it into the memo, so we're trying to present a more, three-dimensional proposal.
Any other comments on the proposed agenda? Hearing none, we need a motion to accept or adopt the agenda.
Approve the agenda.
We approve it.
Approve,
Okay.
yeah. All those in,
Proof.
need a motion?
I think
Lee?
Lee just did that. I'll second it.
Okay, motion by Lee, second by Michael. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Abstentions? Hearing none, motion passes 6-0, still 6, but yes. Okay, next item on the agenda is the forum, I believe. In roundtable. Any members have anything they'd like to bring to the executive committee? Hearing none, we'll pass over that one. Okay, next item is will be executive session.
So we'll need a motion. for you
So we
guys
need
to
a
enter
motion to
executive-
adjourn.
You'll need a
Okay.
motion to enter executive session to discuss
sorry.
personnel matters and invite Christian in.
No, this is
You're not
not,
inviting me?
no,
I'm
we're
sorry.
not gonna
I'm
invite you
sorry.
at this time.
That was me
barred.
overstepping my bounds,
No,
sorry.
No, I want, this is just to discuss.
Yep.
The personnel, and it would be Christian's evaluation,
Okay,
but that's
That's
among,
fine.
be among us.
I'll make the motion that we go into executive session to discuss personnel and to have our executive director attend the meeting.
you want me to-
No, we don't, I'd like to do this without Christian at this stage, so we can go over
Oh, okay.
draft and see if we can get it, well, we need input on what on our evaluation. And I'd like to do that separate. I think next month and
However you want.
I mean, that was the intent.
Mhm.
Yeah. If you guys want to change my intent, that's fine.
No, I think at this point it would be a good meeting to discuss amongst ourselves, and then next month bring Christian in and grill him.
Well, fry them, you mean?
There we go.
Okay, so we need the, Lee, you want to change
Revise
your
the
motion?
motion. I'll revise the motion to
Okay.
I'll
just,
second.
Well, there's a motion to enter executive session. Please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
It's 5:07 PM and all,
Yep.
any opposed, any abstentions, hearing none, the motion passes 6-0.
All right, so I'm gonna pause. your
Pause recording.
recording.
Pause the recording and,
Adjournment.
Yeah. okay, so we have not heard anything from Lexi and yeah, she hasn't been attending a lot. I haven't really,
So she's,
Yeah.
I was just making sure that. she's
I think she
okay.
was at the special meeting that we had just before the commissioners
she
meeting.
did, yeah.
Yeah.
And I have not, I will give her a phone call.
Mhm.
Okay, we need a motion to adjourn?
Seeing no other business before this committee, I make the motion, we adjourn.
I'll second.
Peter,
Oh, Lee's got it.
Lee, and 5:21. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Here none, the motion passes 5-0.
Thank you, Jerry. Good night, Nancy.
Thank-
Good night,
Bye-bye,
everybody.
everybody.
Good night,
Bye.
everybody.
Oh, so well done.
One quick, I just got a copy of Christian's,
His stuff.